Hey everyone, this is Dan Wunderlich. I'm a United Methodist pastor and the host of the MyCom Church Marketing podcast from United Methodist Communications. Each month, we bring you episodes that teach, inspire, and encourage you in the work of church communications. And we try to offer a wide range of perspectives and topics. We cover broad strategy and practical ideas, digital and offline marketing, and many of our episodes feature interviews with folks inside of or connected to the United Methodist Church who share from their expertise and experience. We've built this amazing community of listeners, from volunteers to church staff to pastors who are doing this vital work day in and day out. And one of my favorite things about being a part of this community is hearing the ways in which the things we talk about on the show align with and even inspire real world impact. Recently, we got an email from Pastor Mickey in Columbia, Missouri, and we wanted to share a part of her story. Mickey had just listened to episode 62, which was an interview we did with Larry Fairley on old school and overlooked marketing methods. This episode resonated deeply with her because it touched on the kind of approach that allowed her small church to make a big impact in the community. How small, you might ask? Well, they averaged 11 people in Sunday worship when they decided to think outside of the box. Pastor Mickey writes, "Having been trained in church planting, I approached a nearby large church in the denomination about loaning us 25 families to revitalize the small church. After a couple weeks, the pastor called and told me that he had no one in his church who was interested in worshiping with us on Sunday morning. However, he had some people in his church who had a great interest in playing bluegrass gospel music and were seeking a venue. 2 months later, we started a Saturday night bluegrass worship service featuring the band, a short sermon, and Holy Communion. At the first service, on a cold February night with 18 inches of snow the night before, 76 people showed up. The service lasted until the pandemic closed it down. Many Saturday nights, more than 135 people showed up to the pre-Civil War building originally built to accommodate 100 people. We were able to increase outreach giving by about 40%. We were able to add accessibility ramps to the sanctuary and the church annex and to do long overdue repairs to both buildings. I started a community newsletter, the Roachport Gospel. It had good news of the community, city government, small businesses, weddings, festivals and holiday celebrations, and more. It was one piece of cardstock, double-sided, and it went for a special rate through the USPS to 2 rural mail routes and all P.O. boxes. It cost about $150 a month and took about 5 hours of my time, but it was well received and eagerly anticipated. For many years, the town held a 4th of July parade, and usually about 10 people would show up and walk around the 2 downtown blocks 2 times. We decided to promote the parade, encouraging children to decorate their bicycles and wagons. Our church furnished free ice cream and cookies. 90 people showed up that year. The next year, the other church in town started giving out hot dogs. The Historical Society sold t-shirts, and later a group of women started a drill team. It's now a county event. All these ministries were old school marketing, but they made a big difference to the church, the small businesses, and the community. The congregation is still small on Sunday mornings, but our inexpensive marketing campaigns have kept the church open and serving in that small town. Thanks for your encouraging and informative programs. Well, Pastor Mickey, thank you. You're just one example of the incredible work being done by church communicators and marketers throughout the United Methodist Church. What I love the most about your story is that it isn't ultimately about getting more people through the door on Sunday morning, though that is certainly part of our work. Rather, you told the story of your church by showing how much you care for the community and creating space for new connections centered around love of God and one another. And it doesn't matter whether you're a small church or a big church, old school or on the cutting edge. If you're the kind of church communicator who sees church marketing as a vital part of making disciples, then this podcast is for you. And now, listeners, we want to hear from you. What episodes and topics have made a difference for you? What's resonated with you? What new things have you started or tried out after listening to an episode of our podcast? You can email us at podcast@umcom.org, and we just might share your story on a future episode of the show. And you can, of course, use that email, podcast@umcom.org, to send us any feedback or topic suggestions you have for the show. We always love hearing from you. As always, the easiest way to support the show and help other church communicators like yourself find it is by sharing this episode with your friends and colleagues and by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever service you're listening to right now. And did you know that United Methodist Communications is celebrating 80 years of ministry? Your support ensures that the latest denominational news, dynamic stories, and informative articles will continue to connect our global community. Make a tax-deductible donation today at resourceumc.org/giveumcom. That's GIVEUMCOM. Thanks again for listening to the MyCom Church Marketing Podcast.